In a peaceful valley nestled between two towering mountains, there stood an ancient willow tree. It was tall, its sweeping branches hanging like a curtain, casting gentle shade across the ground below. Beneath this tree lived a fox named Orla, known for her quiet way of life. Orla was an introvert by nature. She preferred solitude, the whisper of wind in the leaves, and the soft rustle of grass underfoot. She spent her days exploring the hidden corners of the valley, away from the chatter of other animals who often gathered by the river or in the forest clearing. It wasn't that Orla didn't like company, but she found it overwhelming. The noise, the laughter, and the conversations drained her, and she often retreated to the shadow of the willow where she could breathe and think. One day, while she rested under the familiar shelter of the tree, she overheard a conversation that made her pause. "That one," a chattering squirrel said, pointing a tiny paw toward the hills beyond the valley. "He's nothing but trouble. An outcast." "Yes," echoed a bird. "He's dangerous. Best avoided." Orla's ears perked up. "Who are they talking about?" she whispered to herself. It didn't take long for her to learn. The subject of their whispers was a large lone wolf named Rune, who lived high in the hills. He was a misunderstood creature, larger than any other animal in the valley and known for his strange, booming howl that echoed through the mountains. Rumors about him abounded. How he frightened travelers, how he prowled the edge of the forest at night, how his sharp teeth gleamed even in the dark. But Orla, ever the quiet observer, noticed something others didn't. Rune never approached anyone. He stayed far from the village, never causing harm. His only crime seemed to be his appearance, his lonely presence, and that strange, mournful howl. The more she thought about it, the more Orla felt a tug in her heart. She knew what it was like to be misunderstood, to prefer the quiet, and to feel more comfortable alone than in the loud company of others. And now she couldn't shake the feeling that Rune might not be the fearsome creature everyone made him out to be. He was perhaps just lonely. But doing something about it was another matter. Orla wasn't the sort to leap into action. The very idea of approaching Rune was frightening, not because of the rumors, but because it would mean stepping out of her comfort zone. Way out. It would mean trying something new, something risky. Yet, the thought of Rune, all alone on that cold hill, tugged at her deeply. If anyone could understand his loneliness, it was her. And if she didn't try to reach out, who would? With a deep breath, Orla decided. She would climb the hill. The ascent was more daunting than Orla had expected. The steep path leading to Rune's lair was lined with jagged rocks, and the wind grew harsher as she climbed higher. At times, she wanted to turn back, to retreat to the comfort of her willow tree, but something kept her moving forward. An unexplainable hope, a quiet certainty that Rune needed someone to understand him. By the time she reached the top of the hill, the sun was beginning to set, casting a golden glow over the valley below. And there, standing at the edge of the cliff, was Rune. His back was to her, his silhouette large and imposing against the sky, but there was a sadness in the way his head hung low, in the way his fur rippled in the wind, as if he carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. Orla's heart raced. For a moment she hesitated. What if he didn't want to be disturbed? What if she had misjudged the situation completely? But then Rune let out a long, mournful howl. It echoed through the mountains, filling the air with such sorrow that Orla felt it in her bones. She knew that howl, it wasn't a sound of aggression or dominance. It was a cry for connection, for someone to hear him. Steeling herself, Orla stepped forward. "Rune?" Her voice was barely more than a whisper, but in the quiet of the evening, it seemed to carry. Rune stiffened. Slowly he turned his head, his yellow eyes locking onto hers. For a moment, neither of them moved. Orla's heart thudded loudly in her chest, but she didn't retreat. She stood her ground, her tail low, her eyes soft. "I'm Orla," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I heard the stories, but I don't believe them." Rune's eyes narrowed as if trying to decipher her words. He said nothing, but he didn't move toward her either, which Orla took as a good sign. I think... Orla hesitated, then continued. I think we're more alike than anyone realizes. Rune blinked. Then, slowly, he sat down, his massive form lowering to the ground in one fluid motion. His expression softened, curiosity replacing the wary tension that had filled the air moments before. Encouraged, Orla continued. I know what it's like to be alone, to feel different. It's hard, and it hurts. A low rumble came from Rune's throat, but it wasn't a growl. It sounded almost like agreement, a shared understanding. He looked down at his paws, then back at Orla, as if weighing her words. I don't mind being alone, Orla admitted, but sometimes it's nice to know someone understands. For a long time they sat in silence, the wind whispering through the trees below. Orla felt a sense of peace settle over her. She had done it, she had reached out, and Rune had listened. He hadn't turned her away. In that quiet moment, they both found something they had been missing, a quiet companionship, born not of words but of shared solitude. Eventually, Rune gave a soft, almost inaudible huff. It wasn't much, but to Orla it was everything. It was an acknowledgement, a small gesture of trust. And for the first time in a long while, Orla felt hope bloom in her chest. Not just for Rune, but for herself. She had faced her fear, stepped beyond the boundaries of her comfort, and found something beautiful in the unknown. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Orla and Rune sat side by side, two quiet souls who, in finding each other, had found hope. The moral of The Solitary Fox and the Lonely Wolf is about the courage to step out of one's comfort zone to offer compassion and understanding. It teaches us that sometimes the most misunderstood individuals are those who feel the deepest loneliness, and it is through empathy and connection that we can bridge those gaps. By facing her fears and trying something new, Orla discovers that offering kindness not only helps others, but also leads to her own growth. The story reminds us that true connection often requires vulnerability and courage, even if it's frightening at first. It is my own personal hope that you too can muster up the courage within you today and the rest of your days, and reach out to those who might need a companion or a friend.